caring if Irene saw. Genevieve turned her attention back to the image projected just to the left of Dagmar's head and pursed her lips. She didn't let go of Daniel's hand. While Irene Trimble had always jumped at shadows and enjoyed the subsequent attention, in this case, Genevieve had to admit the other woman might, just might, have been justifiably provoked. Not enough to scream, certainly. But it was true Dagmar had constructed his presentation for maximum dramatic effect. The picture that had so startled Irene was of two young men, surely no more than 15 years old, in rough jackets and hats, robbing a third, apparently unconscious man, and it had appeared behind Dagmar to the accompaniment of a discordant shriek of sound by the musicians. Most members of the audience had started or winced, as was the intent. Even Genevieve, who had visited the type of foul, garbage-strewn alley pictured, found the photograph unsettling. "Growler gangs," Dagmar intoned solemnly. "Initiate young boys into their ranks early. One way to move up in rank is to commit a robbery, taking advantage of those too inebriated by stale beer to notice their pockets being ransacked." A general murmur of horror swept the crowd. Genevieve knew, though, that the image was staged. Daniel had prepared her for this and other photographs she might find troubling in advance. Dagmar and an assistant had paid the young men in cigarettes, he'd said, to act out rifling through a drunkard's pockets. "So, the act itself is not uncommon," Genevieve had said, frowning. "It's just that Dagmar wouldn't be able to photograph any gang members in the midst of thieving, as he would likely be robbed himself, so he staged the image. Is that correct?" Daniel had eyed her steadily. "Yes." "Are we ready to proceed?" Dagmar's voice carried clearly over the low hum of the audience members and the soft tones of the musicians. Skirts rustled and throats cleared as the assembled lecture-goers resettled themselves, turning their attention once again to Dagmar's spotlit figure. "Some of these images are a little troubling, my friends." Dagmar gave a subtle hand gesture to the musicians, whose pace and tempo increased. "But that is why we are gathered here. I took these pictures and created this slideshow to expose the horrors under which your very neighbors live their lives. Because yes, even if you live on Fifth Avenue," the image of the robbery dissolved, slowly replaced by a photograph of the brand-new Huntley mansion, completed at the corner of 5th and 57th mere weeks prior. Shocked gasps arose all around Genevieve. She glanced at Dewey and Leona Huntley's visibly stiffening backs. "Even if you live here," Dagmar continued, undaunted, "these poor wretches are, indeed, your neighbors." The image dissolved again, this time switching to a pile of newsboys sleeping atop a grate in the sidewalk, huddled together like puppies. The band's piano sounded the treacly opening notes of "Where is My Wandering Boy Tonight?" A strangled sob sounded from somewhere behind Genevieve's right shoulder. "These boys lay their heads on the very street only a half-mile from where the Huntley mansion stands," Dagmar concluded gravely. "And I do not mean to single out the Huntley family, who are fine, upstanding members of our fair city and who donate generously to this cause." Dewey and Leona sat a little straighter in their chairs, Leona's nose tilting upward. "But let it fall upon all our shoulders to help end these injustices." A grand flourish from the band signaled the end of the slideshow. The lights in the lecture hall rose as Dagmar nodded, acknowledging the audience's enthusiastic applause. Genevieve felt drained. She had to admit Dagmar had